All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Irrational Confidence Podcast. We're talking college football, and the season is over for the first time since 97, or even if you want to go back to the 40s for the outright title. The Michigan Wolverines have won the national championship. Yep, the 2023 college football season is over, but the man who nothing is ever over with, my co-host Fresh. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, it's not over. We got turns up now. We're into 2024, turning the page. We'll see. Maybe Michigan will have this title technically, forever wrote in the books, and maybe it gets vacated. We'll see how history prevails out and how things proceed. But right now, they are the champions.
Yeah, really good game. The final score, Fresh, isn't ever going to show how close this game was. It was a one-score football game till about midway through the fourth quarter there. I just felt that throughout the entire football game that Michigan's defense did a very good job of making Penix completely uncomfortable. We watched a lot of Michael Penix Jr. throughout this season. He didn't miss a whole lot of throws, and it looked like he was dealing with some sort of injury. We saw him kept grabbing his side every time he got hit, and you take a look at some of the things they were able to do, but he missed all of his throws, and the receivers were having uncharacteristic drops throughout there. A lot of times, and it's a couple of things. One, Penix being able to handle that moment. Again, don't know about what was going on injury-wise, but also having a great defensive philosophy for the Wolverines, being able to make him get pressure. A lot of times they were taking only 4 guys to get pressure at times. Every time they sent an extra man on a blitz or something, God forbid if they ever sent 2 guys on a blitz, Michael Penix Jr. was kind of taking 2 steps, ducking and just throwing the ball up in the air. So I thought the Wolverines had a fantastic defensive game plan. And then on top of that, you take a look at Blake Corum. 134 yards, the 2 big touchdowns there as well. The rushing attack was phenomenal by the Wolverines. Same thing we've seen all year long with over 300 yards on the ground. What about you, Fresh? What did you think?
I think first off, we've said the entire time we talk about Michigan, this team is built with toughness and to dominate the line of scrimmage and to run the football. They are a run-first football team, play ahead, dictate the pace. And they did that from the very beginning of this football game. Yeah, they had holes that you could put 4 running backs shoulder to shoulder and run through at one point. Edwards comes in there, bolts out the 2 huge touchdowns right off the bat. Washington's defense was uninspired. They were definitely not physical. Do they even know the game started? I have no idea, but they were not ready to play. And for all this, understanding of how to be physical and how to be ready and knowing what Michigan does, they don't hide it. They don't get cute. They run the ball down your throat, and they did it to Washington, and they dominate them. Now, the one thing that actually kind of took me away, though, is you're up 14-3. You're punching the trash out of the Husky defense, and you're going down there. Literally, they could have scored, put the game away, make 21-3, and been done. This thing could have been a rout. It was looking like they were about to be TCU in the first place. And then Michigan starts throwing the ball on 3rd and 4th down. Or like you're getting 8, 9, 10, 12 yards a pop every time you hand the ball off to Corum or Edwards. Why are we letting McCarthy throw football? And there's a part of that football game. They let McCarthy sort of throw, and it kind of felt like they were trying to showcase him for the NFL. Maybe they were getting cocky, like, hey, we got the game in the bag anyway. Let's let McCarthy throw the football. But then before you know it, halftime, it's 17-10. We kind of have a football game coming back out of the locker room. We're like, you could have put the game away, lit it up, run the football down their throat, dominated, give Edwards, give Corum, 3-4 touchdowns a pop, and put up, 550 yards rushing, but they keep throwing the football. And that really that almost came back to bite them. If they didn't get the interception in basically the third play of the third quarter to start the half and shorten the field and then eventually lock it down, it could have been a ball game there. I see one question I have with Michigan's coaching staff is why they really wanted to put the ball in McCarthy's hands when the running game is what's gotten them there the entire time. That's who they are. That's their brand. And I kind of wanted to see them if they could have put up maybe 45, 50 points on that Washington defense if they had kept running the football and then maybe throwing the ball late once it was well in hand. That was the only question. But that Michigan offensive line the previous 2 years was awarded the Joe Moore Award. There's a lot of controversy whether they were the team to actually truly win or whatnot. They lost both those games. This year, Washington being the Joe Moore Award winner, they come in there, they can take the big L. So maybe you don't want to win that award going forward. But Washington was not physical on either line of scrimmage. Offensively, they could not, like you mentioned, they could not protect Penix at all. They were getting guys, loose left and right. There was obviously the controversial holding call late. But then defensively, they were getting almost no penetration. There was blue jerseys getting to the second and third level all the time. Um, you know, you can be pretty and fancy. Maybe they've had too many close calls. Maybe that team is physically beat up over the course of the year. And that's where the depth thing does come into play with some of these other schools where, you're starting, let's say you're starting 11, maybe top 17 players on the defense or offense. They're solid, legit guys. And you start getting to that full 22 on each side of the ball. You start finding some guys who maybe aren't the caliber, and that depth starts to become a concern. And you started seeing it where there was even some times where guys were making business decisions and not trying to make a true tackle on any Michigan running back. Um, Michigan earned this for all the controversy that surrounded them with, stealing signs for the previous 2 years, going back to 2020. Their win versus Alabama and their win versus Washington were complete physical domination efforts that they didn't really need the film. Whether they might have had it, quote unquote, or not beforehand, who cares? I'm sure everyone's well aware to change calls by now. They manhandled the line of scrimmage in both those games. They ran it down people's throats, and they did it their way. This is going to be shrouded with controversy. Obviously, there's things going back and forth. There's still ongoing investigations that haven't even been, officially presented to Michigan's athletic department. The Harbaugh scenario of him leaving, but on the field, in these two ball games, they took care of business, and they won a national championship. And you can't take that away. It's very similar to probably a Reggie Bush Heisman Trophy, where everybody physically saw it happen on the field. You can put an asterisk, you could take it away. You could joke about all you want, but they physically won the football game on the field. And you look at the NFL playoffs, you look, NBA, basketball, college basketball, I should say, any kind of tournament, there might be the team that's on paper the best team or the record or whatever statistically, but until you actually play the other team on that venue in that certain environment for that full period, you have stuff to decide it within the lines. And for the most part, this game was decided inside the lines, and they did it their way. There are obviously multiple screenshots of Washington players being held, whether receivers or defensive linemen, that were never called, obviously creating a lot of stir and controversy online throughout the ball game. But things happen in games, and you got to play through it sometimes. And the Washington players dropping the ball, Penix Jr. making horrible throws all night, him being dinged up and injured didn't play much of a factor in them being successful. All these things sort of played out, and I think even if Penix Jr. was healthy, that Michigan defense, they were locked in all night long, and they were hitting people and they were being physical. They set the tone, and they took some of that explosive passing game away until it really didn't matter late in the ball game.
Yeah, Fresh. Even if we go down the road and this title gets vacated, the thing I always say is you can't take away my memories. You can't take away the fact, and really you get the recruiting boon off of this next 2 or 3 years. Like when you win a national title, you get a nice little influx of recruiting. By the time they get around to if they wind up doing anything like that, and I don't necessarily know if they're going to take the title away. You might vacate wins from a previous season, but I don't think they're going to take this title away. I honestly think that most people by that time are going to go, guys, who time heals all wounds, and all the time people forget. And yeah, Ohio State fans and Penn State fans and maybe some Notre Dame fans will remember, bring it up, and yeah, and you'll flap your gums about it. But at the end of the day, the Wolverines are going to look and go, it didn't matter in this game. Like, we won the line of scrimmage. We won the defensive side of the football. We made one of the best quarterbacks in college football. Like, Michael Penix Jr. was my Heisman vote for majority of the season, and he looked like a true freshman out there on one of his first starts. I mean, it was not a pretty thing for him. I go back to what you were saying with the Wolverines. I was a little confused. They're up 17-3, and during that time, McCarthy attempts 18 passes during the game. He winds up after they go up 17-3, he goes 2 of 6 for 25 yards, and all of a sudden the Wolverines are punting every single time on that, and allows, Washington to kind of crawl themselves back into the game, going into halftime at 17-10. We had a ball game on our hands, and a game that should have been probably out of reach, as we were talking during the first quarter here. But, hats off to the Wolverines. I'm not going to take anything away from them. I'm not going to say anything disparaging or say that, there is no asterisk to me because you won the game on the field. It was played this way. You won the game on there. You know, the Cole Connor Stallions things, especially in 2023, Wolverines were going to outclass talent wise every game that Stallions was there, anyways. Like, it wouldn't, with their schedule, it wouldn't have mattered. The games that mattered, he was already off the program. So, okay, take away wins from 2021 or 2022, but you're not going to affect 2023. And that's the big thing that's going to happen here. So, we need to give the Wolverines their flowers. We need to make sure that they're applauded for doing what they need to do. They went through Alabama. As you said in our preview, a national champion has to go through Alabama. They did that. Washington went through Texas, a great team as well. And guess what? The Wolverines boat raced Washington, especially in that fourth quarter. This game gets a little ugly in this regard. But, hey, hats off to them. They're the national champs. They'll be defending national champs next year. We'll watch what Harbaugh does and see where he goes, whether he's off to NFL or whether he stays in college. I don't know. I think he's a better college coach than an NFL coach, but there's only 32 positions in the NFL, man. Hey, if someone wants to give you one of those 32, you take it.
Well, I think, and that's the one thing that's enticing now with the NFL. A lot of, you hear rumors of, will Kirby Smart go take a job and be coach of the Falcons or whatnot? And I really, truly hope he doesn't do it. But college has become so exhausting for these head coaches where you are recruiting 24/7 high school players multiple years out. You're recruiting your own players every single year, dealing with NIL collectives, dealing with schedules, rule changes, boosters asking for this and that and the other. Now you've gone from a 12 game, what we saw historically 11 game regular season forever. Then it became 12. Conference championship games become 13. Then a bowl game becomes 14. Now you have the 2 playoff becomes 15. Going forward, we're going to have 16 potential games you could play. These seasons just get longer and longer. And you start seeing some of these coaches like Kirby, Nick Saban. These guys look exhausted once the season's over. But they're having a December recruiting period once the season's over, or in still heading to bowl season, where now I gotta continue to keep recycling myself. The NFL opportunity is a little more structured. You don't have to constantly recruit. You have your front office to handle all that stuff for you. You just go out there and you coach. That might be more of a mental refresh for some of these guys. And it takes a lot to be a college coach these days. It's not the old school times in the 50s, 60s, 70s where, Bo and Woody could go, or anyone, Eric Parseghian at Notre Dame could just, we are who we are, and people are going to flock to you. And you don't have to actually try to out-recruit anyone. They just come for the brand and they play, and you don't have the outside nonsense beating down your door. The only thing that I could see Harbaugh truly going back to the NFL is if these sanctions that potentially can bubble up become too much, and he knows that I'm going to either try to leave to prevent the players from being punished, and that might be his, honorable gesture in his mind, or I leave so I don't get hindered by the handout, the penalties. I leave, and then the players, they have to deal with it going forward. Very similar to what Pete Carroll and USC, he got out, and then the sanctions came in right after that. It's going to be interesting to see how, the next couple of weeks. He's obviously a hot name. I have a feeling, I just really deep down think he's going to go to the NFL. There's just too much, hot topic. He did what he came to Michigan for, to win a national championship. And folks, he did something Bo Schembechler never will do. And Bo is a revered god for all Michigan fans. He won a national championship. And he won multiple Big Tens. He's obviously beaten Ohio State 3 straight years. He fulfilled his promise. And at the one time it looks like it was a bad match. He somehow survived. They got through and they've won it and they put it together. I think there's a lot of lifted off his shoulders. And I think it's now for him to go off into the sunset, go to the NFL. He was very successful there with the 49ers. And started to, continue to keep rebranding himself and do it at another level.
Yeah. Fresh. All right. Before we sign off here, I'm going to ask you one question. 2020, from top to bottom, whole season, not individual team, not anything else like this, is 2023 the most interesting college football season we've had in the last decade? Because I'll say yes.
I will say yes, because you see the transfer portal. That anything prior to 2020, I think you have to really withdraw, because 2020 with the COVID, free transfers, and also kids getting an extra COVID year opened up a lot of chaos. And these kids are getting, going around, no blocks. In the past, you had to sit out a year unless you're a grad transfer. Now you're getting to transfer multiple times within the leagues. You can even go from conference rival to conference rival. The roster management has become a whole new odyssey that these teams are trying to navigate, and you don't know how your roster is going to be year to year. It's usually you're like, all right, what? I got 3 years with some players, and maybe if they're good enough to go to the NFL. Now, I might get a kid for a year, and if he's not starting, that kid potentially could leave if he doesn't want to get developed or even have the time to develop or the depth chart itself. So you have to just constantly build relationships, or a kid you might have missed out on signing day as a freshman, that relationship, you might still keep it. Now you go get him maybe sophomore, junior year, bring him in. And then the overlying elephant in the room is quarterback free agency. We didn't see that before. Now these kids are just, I'm going to do 3 years here. I'm going to go 1 year, try to make it fit, and then make a run for a playoff spot. You saw Notre Dame go out and get Sam Hartman. Now they go get Riley Leonard. That kind of trend is only going to get more chaotic unless there is a much more of a structure around the portal and signing periods going forward.
And think of how many interesting storylines we had throughout this year. That's the other thing that made me jump at this thought a minute as I was thinking about last night after the game. So 2023 is the most fascinating year of college football of all time. One, we started off the season talking about Coach Prime, talked about the death of the Pac-12, and we talked about Georgia going for a three-peat for the first time since the University of Minnesota. Then on top of that, throughout the year, we have the Connor Stallions thing. We have Florida State being left off. We have, if you're a fan of programs that are lower end, we have programs like Arizona just completely come out of nowhere. We have programs like, who's the other one I'm trying to think of? Duke that just kind of went nuts. You have Liberty.
Missouri had a heck of a year.
All of these programs who weren't this. A year ago, I asked you a question. You said, and I think you took it a wrong way. This is when I said I want parity in college football. This is a prime example of a year of parity to me. It doesn't mean a 16 upsetting a 1 or anything along those lines, because that's never going to happen in the world of college football. But this was a year where you saw from East Coast to West Coast, no matter where you were in the country, you saw a fascinating football season. You could have watched really great football whatever time zone you were living in. You saw the resurgence of a Texas program. You saw some amazing quarterback play out west. You saw Florida State go through their whole thing on the East Coast. I mean, this was a truly remarkable, and I'm sure I'm forgetting 10 or 11 other storylines. So, hey, in the comments, leave your favorite thing or favorite storyline that happened during the college football season.
If this was going to be an ESPN 30 for 30, I would say the year would just be, the title would be realignment, because the way everything you just mentioned, there is a version of realignment, whether Coach Prime realigning basically the vision of Colorado and their future and college football in general with the transfer portal, Michigan realigning their past, Oregon and Washington, USC and UCLA leaving, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Realigning views in current landscapes is the overarching term, I think, for 2023.
Yeah, I forgot even Northwestern firing Fitzgerald a month before the season they become bowl eligible. That's going to be the thing. We're going to look back 3 or 4 months from now and just be shooting the breeze and talking and saying, man, you remember this last season and this and this and this. And I think this is going to be one of those seasons that will live on forever. But
yeah,
that's just my thought. All right, folks. Hey, before you get going, hit that subscribe button up there. Hit the notification bell. This is a free show. We try to keep it free for all of you guys. It's the best way to support our channel. So hit that. Special thanks to our producer, Drew. Without him, none of this is all possible. He's done an amazing job for a great season here. Make sure you're visiting spinnablesports.com. Follow us on social media. If I can get everything out right now, because I'm trying to hold back coughing. But
he's emotional, folks. He's emotional as a Buckeye fan. It's tough for him.
I know. I can't believe that we're finally to the end of college football season, though. But we got more coming along the line for us. But want to thank you guys for tuning in along the way. It's just been a heck of a ride. Just enjoy interacting with you. all the comments throughout the year have been phenomenal, telling us we don't know what we're talking about, or telling us occasionally that we do really know what we're talking about, and supporting us on social media. All of you guys, thank you so much. Everything that you guys do for us, we appreciate it. And make sure you lock in, subscribe to the channel. And you know what? That's all I got for today.
Well, I just want to give one shout out to our legal eagle, Kinger. Your Michigan Wolverines got you the title. Like I told you last night when I texted you, buy all the merchandise, celebrate it, live it up, enjoy it. The title's yours. And on top of that, folks, stay tuned with us because right now, football season's not over. We got the NFL playoffs coming. Then after that, we got March Madness and then the NFL draft. And then we'll get ready for the college football season after that. So lock into Spittable Sports, lock into our YouTube channel, lock into a Rational Confidence podcast on all your platforms, and follow us on social media because we're not stopping. We're going to keep chopping away and moving forward. And with that, bye, y'all.